Hi guys, this is SDJR7F88 speaking with a video on how to build a festive model railway inside one of these, a wrapping paper storage box. One of the biggest misconceptions about building a model railway is the fact that you need a large space, when really all you need to do is think outside the box, or in this case, inside one. Inspired by a recent project by Chris Navard, I'm going to be showing you how to build a festive micro layout inside a wrapping paper box. So here is our storage box, and as you can see it's got a simple clip-on lid which removes just like so. Now the internal dimensions of this box are 750mm by 210, and as you can already see we have a pre-built baseboard in here. Now this is something we've put together from a leftover bit of plywood which we simply cut to size, and we pinned and glued these two blocks of wood on the bottom. Now the reason for this is to, one, raise the baseboard from the deck of the box. This makes it easier to get in and out. But also as well, it allows for a bit of a room underneath to put electronics and any wiring for the track if need be. Now what we've also gone and done is we've cut the baseboard slightly shorter than the actual internal length of the box. So as mentioned, the internal length is 750mm and this baseboard is 730mm. This gives 10mm at each end just to pop your fingers in, so it can be easily lifted in and out once complete. Now of course, depending on how high you're going to have your scenery, you can store your rolling stock, such as locomotives and wagons, in their boxes, and the control system underneath the layout itself inside this one box. Or if you plan to go a bit higher and you have a few more items of rolling stock so you can alternate around, you can simply just get another one of these boxes and put your control system and your locomotives in there. But as you can see, once the lid is on, you've got this lovely little storage box which can simply be slid underneath your bed or put on a shelf ready for use. So here is the track plan for the layout, and as you can see it's just going to be a simple straight back and forth run with a spur off to the right to this little cattle dock here. So the idea of this scene, it's going to be a festive scene, so this is going to be a fledgling preserved railway project, and there's going to be people on the platform here waiting for Santa specials, which will be performed by a little Hornby Peckett with a brake van, which will be shuttling back and forth between the Halt and the goods yard up here. So the idea is there'll be some nice little sort of carol scenes and stuff like that on the platform, and possibly a little snowball fight or something going on in this little field here, and maybe, if I can find the correct figures, some little reindeer in the actual cattle dock itself as well. So of course this will all be covered with snow effect. I've never done a layout with snow effect before, so this will be really interesting and something I wanted to really try out for a long time. So it'd be nice to finally get around and have a go at trying to do this effect. Another thing that I'm going to try and experiment with this layout is putting a shuttle system on it. So I'll mount a shuttle system on the underside of the baseboard, and hopefully this will alternate the Peckett back and forth, waiting at each end for a couple of seconds to a minute, basically giving the effect that the Peckett is actually doing these little runs back and forth of its own accord, which would be perfect for a layout this size. So I guess it's all that's left to do is to get the items out and actually start laying the track. Right, so as you can see the track has now been laid and tested, and it's now time to move on to the ballasting. So for the ballast I'm going to be using this. Now this is a fine grade buff ballast, and it is here with some powdered PVA. Now this stuff is great. I use this on the Great Model Railway Challenge, and basically what you do is you mix this powder in with your ballast dry, and then you sprinkle it onto the track much like you do when you do normal ballasting, and then you simply give it a mist of water and it bonds everything together and provides this really great tough finish, and I'm really pleased with this product. So I'm going to be using this again, and then once it is all in place along with the rest of the scenery, I'll then go over with the dusting of snow, and hopefully it'll blend everything in nicely into this lovely winter wonderland scene. while the ballast is drying, I'm going to crack on with some of the landscaping. Now this is a leftover bit of polystyrene for some packaging that I've picked up. And as you can see, it's just about the right width for a platform edge. So the idea is to cut a rectangle off of this end, which will be used for the platform for the halt. And then the rest of this sheet, or part of this sheet, will create the raised field that will go here and the cattle dock. So without further ado, I'm going to go get a knife and start cutting this down to size. Right, so as you can see, it's getting a bit dark out here now, so I'm going to call it a day. But you can see the landforms are now in place, so we got the platform just here, and then we've got space in between for the road and the crossing. Then we've got lovely raising embankments, which I'll have a little hedgerow and some trees on there. And then you can see there's a bit of a square shape in the middle there, and that's basically where the platform's going to go. And then I've got some spare polystyrene left over, and I hope to sort of round off the end bit in front of the buffer stop there as well. But on a whole, I'm very, very pleased with how the layout has turned out so far over the course of the past day, and I'm looking forward to cracking on with it tomorrow. So now that the ballast has had time to dry overnight, it's now time to get onto the landscaping. So the plan for today is to give the layout a undercoat before adding all the turf and foliage and other things, getting on with the platform hopefully, and of course adding in the road. So without further ado, let's get started. So before I get around to adding the scatter, I thought it would be a good idea to make a start on the Halt and Platform. So for this I'm using the Hornby Scaledale Wayside Halt building, which sits on there nicely. And the platform of course is polystyrene, which I cut with the landscaping yesterday. You can see I've made this little indentation here, and this basically allows for this, which is the Scaledale small water tower, to slot in there to obviously provide water for any of the locomotives on the layout. So the idea is to obviously use brick card, just like this stuff here, around the edges of the platform, and I'm going to go over with a textured paint on the top. I'm going to add some little slabs for the platform edging, and then there's going to be a bit of hedging along the back of the actual building, and then once it's positioned on the layout it will then be blended in around the outside with scatter and other bits and pieces before finally we get round to adding a layer of snow. Right, so we're starting to lose the light today, so the idea now is probably to round everything up, because the next stage is of course putting the scatter on, and in doing so I would ideally like to put the snow straight on top while the glue is still wet underneath. But anyway, I've managed to get a lot done today, and as you can see the platform is now in place. We've got the brick working on the front there, we've got the platform edge, I've even got round to adding the fencing and the hedging behind the platform hut there. The water tower is also now in place, and I've also tarmacked underneath the water tower, and this of course all be blended in with foliage and other bits and pieces from the scatter tomorrow. The cattle dock or goods platform is coming along nicely as well. You can see the brickworks on there, and we've also added the fencing for the field. This is where obviously there'll be the snowman, the snowball fight going on, and then we've got these lovely little trees. Now I picked these up relatively cheaply, and you can see they've already got snow effect on them. And I think they'll add to the effect of this layout as well once the rest of the snow's on there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch the camera off, and all I'm going to do is mask off the rest of the rails ready for tomorrow. So the idea is this will hopefully stop any glue or any foliage getting on the rails and obviously creating a problem for running. So I'm going to mask that all off so we're all ready to go tomorrow morning nice and early, and get all the scenic work on there, and then hopefully some snow. So with all the scatter, hedging, buildings and little details such as the mailboxes and the leftover sleepers in the goods yard now in position, the layout pretty much looks complete. However, there is one more step left to do, and that is of course add the snow. So, without further ado, let's make it snow. There we have it, the snow effect is now in place. For my first attempt, I'm very pleased with how it's all turned out. As you saw, I basically went over the whole layout with a can of spray glue, and then I basically dusted on the snow effect, and then I sealed it all in with another coat of the spray glue. So what I'm going to do now is basically just leave this overnight to let it all dry and let the glue work its magic and hopefully keep all the effect down in place. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to give the track a good clean with a track rubber, make sure all the connections like between the points and stuff are all clean and ready for action, and then hopefully we'll have some trains running. Naturally, with a layout this size, it is best suited for small locomotives and rolling stock, such as the Hornby Peckett. And as you can see here, we got one paired up with one of the new releases, which is the BR Eastern Region Toad. And the two make a lovely little combo, perfect for a little shot or run back and forth on this layout. So without further ado, let's get her on her inaugural run. So there you have it, my festive video on how to build a micro layout inside a wrapping paper box. And I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I have in producing it. And of course, I hope it's inspired you to have a go at building your own micro layouts in the not too distant future. I guess that's all that's left for me to say, is this has been SDJR7F88 speaking, and Merry Christmas from myself and all the team at Hornby. Merry Christmas!